Tired of ads interrupting your favorite show? Good news. Ad-free listening on Amazon Music is included with your Prime membership. Download the Amazon Music app or visit amazon.com/ad-free sports. That's amazon.com/ad-free sports to catch up on the latest episodes without the ads. Enjoy thousands of Acast shows ad-free for Prime members. Some shows may have ads.
7 things you don't really need to know, but probably should. I'm Ciara Revin, and this is the Sunday 7.
Welcome to 2024's first episode of the Sunday 7, the Signal award-winning podcast that looks at the biggest stories in sciences and technology each week. This week we're looking at the psychology of New Year's resolutions. We hear about a crypto CEO who mightn't exist, discover the chaotic energy of Arctic fevers, and get good news on future antibiotics. But first, on this day in 1610, Galileo made the first magnified observations of the moon using his 20-powered spyglass. It enabled him to see the surface of the moon for the first time, and he observed that the surface was in fact rough and unequal, an observation borne out by subsequent exploration. We're facing a new year full of new challenges, and for as long as we've celebrated New Year, we've also set ourselves new goals, vowing that this year our New Year's resolutions will definitely change our lives for good. In fact, it's a tradition that goes back to Babylonian and Roman times, but much like dieting, studies show that most attempts fail. So on this week's Sunday 7, we're doing a bit of a deep dive into the history and science of New Year's resolutions and seeing if we can help you figure out a way to beat the odds and make a positive change in 2024. Historian and Professor of Theology at the University of Birmingham, Candida says it's a long tradition.
Even if we go very far back in history, we can find people trying to kind of orchestrate a fresh start at the New Year's through resolutions. And that's really important for how we think about New Year's as a kind of taking stock and starting again. These are primarily about making the gods happy. And that's really what New Year's is about. It's a kind of supernatural spring cleaning.
So how can we apply modern psychology and mindfulness to help beat the odds and change our habits for the better? The nation's favourite fitness coach, Wicks, says the key to it is to make small changes.
People often want like a quick fix, right? You know, a shake or a pill or something that's just going to be like 2 weeks and you're done. But the truth is it's really hard work getting in shape, and it takes commitment and effort and dedication. It was hard work last year, and whatever you want to do this year is also going to be challenging. So rather than think about this big, unobtainable, like unrealistic goal, think about just small daily wins. You know, can you do something positive today? Could it be cooking, batch cooking for 15 minutes, or, doing a quick 50-minute home workout, or even going for a walk on your lunch break, chatting to someone you haven't spoke to and connecting. These things make us feel good.
Dr. Dion Metzger is a professor of psychiatry at Emory University, and she explains how you can actually achieve your resolutions in 2024.
It's easier for the brain to be able to change one habit at a time rather than trying to take on 2 or 3. So just breaking it down to 1 per, during the time, it really makes a big difference. With making goals, sometimes we try to go from 0 to 100. We go from walking to doing a marathon too quickly. So if you're not somebody who's active, but you want to become more active in 2024, I would suggest, okay, let's set 1 to 2 days of being physically active instead of saying, okay, I'm going to work out Monday through Friday. So you're kind of setting yourself up to fail when you set those goals a little bit too high. So every time I'm talking to my patients, I always recommend, let's separate these goals into small bites that we can actually do.
We're starting off 2024 in a world of tech with 2 pretty dramatic stories. The first is about a lawsuit that could undermine or, at the very least, seriously slow down AI's relentless charge into our lives. And the second is about a crypto CEO who doesn't seem to exist. There's only one man we can turn to when stories like this arise, and that's the Smart 7 resident tech guru, Will Guyatt. So, Will, tell us, what has the New York Times done to OpenAI?
The only tech prediction for 2024 I'm totally sure about is that this is the year the legal world finally catches up with artificial intelligence. The advancements have been so rapid that it's time for some legal precedents to be established. Could Paul McCartney have the feel-good reggae hit of the summer without being remotely involved in it, even though it sounds like him? And bigger than that, should companies like OpenAI, who make ChatGPT, continue to build their products and ultimately grow their net worth on the work of others? In short, this New York Times lawsuit will be the first of many, as the starting gun's now been fired.
Does the case have any merit? Is it going to derail OpenAI, or do they just need to open their checkbooks?
It does appear that these suggestions have some merit. It's just whether that sticks legally. So the New York Times is claiming its copyrighted content is being used disproportionately by OpenAI. The suggestion is that their work has been hoovered up by these large language models that have been trained by OpenAI, and the results appear to prove that results and findings from the New York Times are featuring favourably in the responses that are being generated by ChatGPT. Now, some publishers like Germany's Axel Springer, who own all sorts of media brands around the world, have signed deals with OpenAI to use their content, but many are still weighing up their options before doing a deal. But you're definitely going to see OpenAI paying for more of the material that they are using, so therefore they're definitely going to get their checkbook out this year. The New York Times says they want damages, restitution and costs, and they want OpenAI's large language models, which have been trained on its copyrighted work, to be destroyed, and the latter would certainly slow down the company's breakneck progress.
And what about the broader implications of copyright for intellectual property?
Well, if you remember the old ad slogan, where there's a blame, there's a claim, it's hard to argue that many of the creators of AI products have deliberately ignored these potential legal implications until this point. So this year we'll see hundreds, maybe thousands of claims like this coming forward. And it seems that people's work should be protected from ripped wholesale development of artificial intelligence.
Okay, so now our second story involves crypto, which can seem shady at the best of times, but this one reaches a whole new level. Who is Stephen Rees-Lewis?
So imagine you've got some cash and you're thinking of investing into cryptocurrencies. It's a new area, and all this press shows you that people can take advantage of you. So why not go to a fund that's being led by a calm, recognised leader with a great list of qualifications and achievements? Well, surely that's a good bet, right? Well, Stephen Rees-Lewis caught attention as the chief executive of Hyperverse and was front and centre of its global online launch in December 2021. He even got video messages of support from the Apple co-founder Steve Wozniak and randomly the actor and meme of old Chuck Norris, whose videos were shared on his Twitter account and told people they were looking forward to Hyperverse launching. If you fast forward to today, the US blockchain analysts Chainalysis reckon that $1.3 billion worth of investments were lost in Hyperverse in 2022. And guess what? It looks like this glittering chief exec doesn't even exist. All we have is a short typo-ridden response to some questions from The Guardian, which claims that people on the internet continues to make things up.
And does it look like the whole thing was a scam, or is it just a mistaken identity?
There's no information for Stephen on the UK or US company records databases. Adobe say they never purchased his web development company, and both the University of Leeds and the University of Cambridge say they've never had someone of that name enrolled. And his time at Goldman Sachs must have been forgettable too, as they don't remember him either. It's hard to say what we should learn from this, but next time you're looking to invest in a new crypto money spinner, it might be worth seeing whether the boss actually exists.
Still to come on the Sunday 7, new hope for treatment of superbugs and how so many people escaped the Japanese plane crash. One of the most significant threats facing human health is the rise of antibiotic-resistant infections. What's known as antimicrobial resistance led to almost 5 million deaths in 2019, according to the United Nations, and finding a solution is listed as one of the World Health Organization's top priorities. The so-called gram-negative bacteria are protected by inner and outer membranes, which make it harder for antibiotics to have any impact on the bugs. One of the treatments being tried is something called phage therapy. That's the use of specific viruses to target and kill bacterial infections that are antibiotic resistant. Epidemiologist Strathdee is the founder of the Centre for Innovative Phage Applications and Therapeutics, or IPAT, and she's been researching alternative treatments when antibiotics fail. Her interest in the field was sparked when her husband Tom contracted an antibiotic-resistant infection that nearly killed him, until phage therapy offered a life-saving option. She says it's an area that has huge potential, as she spoke to CNN's Dr. Sanjay Gupta.
We've had over 1,700 requests for phage therapy since we opened our doors. You know, it came so well together for Tom that I really thought we could do this every single time, but that was naive. You know, if we had a phage library that had, been stocked with phages that will kill the majority of bacteria that are affecting human health, we can source phage within a day or two and have it ready. This whole idea of being able to use phage in conjunction with antibiotics is a game changer in the field, even on its own.
There have been some promising signs in terms of new antibiotics, including one called sos-urabalpin, which targets a group of bacteria known as crab. That accounts for about 20% of infections in intensive care units worldwide. The new antibiotic is the first in its class for 50 years and it's currently in phase 1 clinical trials. But antibiotics alone may not be the most effective way to treat these persistent infections. Graham Hatfull is a professor of microbial sciences at the University of Pittsburgh and he's an advocate for combining phage therapy with antibiotics as a more effective way of tackling these superbugs. He's got a team of volunteers who collect samples to discover new phages or viruses which can be put to good use in the battle against antimicrobial resistance.
We've collected and written up and reported a set of 20 cases. 11 out of the 20 we could determine favourable clinical or microbiological outcomes. The patients got better in various different ways. And so even though that's not a magic bullet, that's 11 patients who were out of other options. We clearly think that investigating, discovering, characterizing phages is a global rather than a local problem. Ultimately, the goal would be to have such a deep understanding of those phage genome sequences and the bacterial sequences that you could simply use AI to predict which phages you're going to use for which particular infection.
Japan has had a tough start to 2024. New Year's Day saw an earthquake in the Sea of Japan that caused destruction across the remote Noto Peninsula and shockwaves that were felt over 200 miles away in Tokyo. Rescuers scrambled to clear rubble and finding survivors, and the Japanese Coast Guard was amongst those shipping aid to the affected region. However, that led to a tragedy at Tokyo's Haneda Airport as a fully loaded Coast Guard plane collided with an incoming Japanese Airlines jet with almost 400 passengers on board. 5 of the 6 Coast Guard crew were killed and the JAL jet burst into flames on the runway, but incredibly all 379 passengers walked away safely. Julian Bray is an international aviation safety expert and he explains how technology and training helped to save so many lives.
We can see the A350, there are flames all along the fuselage, that's the hull, but the people inside the plane were still protected from the flames themselves because they're inside a pressurized cabin. So the point is that the air pressure there is slightly higher than the air pressure outside. So the technical point being that the fire couldn't get in. It's only when the barrier melts down that the fire gets in, by which time we hope the plane has landed and they can get everybody off. Really, there's no hard and fast rule as to where it is best to sit, because the point is that all parts of the plane need to be safe. With modern technology, modern aircraft, modern materials, you find that is no longer a real consideration. The thing that does come in is getting off the aircraft, and you must train yourself not to stop to open the luggage bin, to bring out your suitcase and your briefcase and your papers and everything else. Just make sure you got your shoes on and go.
Still to come on the Sunday 7, bad news on the climate front, beavers cause mischief in the Arctic, and good news for cat fans in Singapore.
Right after this.
Tired of ads interrupting your favorite show? Good news. Ad-free listening on Amazon Music is included with your Prime membership. Download the Amazon Music app or visit amazon.com/ad-free sports. That's amazon.com/ad-free sports to catch up on the latest episodes without the ads. Enjoy thousands of Acast shows ad-free for Prime members. Some shows may have ads.
Welcome back.
2023 was the UK's second hottest year on record, according to a report this week from the UK Met Office. Scientists say that the temperatures reached could have only happened once in 500 years if it weren't for the effect of climate change and global warming. June and September also set records as the hottest months since 1884. It's not just warming either. There's also been a rise in sea levels and more intense rainfall, which pose risks to lives and livelihoods in the UK, according to experts. Channel 4 spoke to the Met Office's Professor Richard Betts, impacts. He's the head of climate impacts research, and he says the picture is not good.
There's a good chance that the global average temperature could exceed 1.5 degrees above pre-industrial. Our central estimate is actually slightly below that, but there was always a margin for error. So there is a good chance we could go over that level for 1 year. Of course, that doesn't mean we'll have actually breached the Paris Agreement, the international agreement, which aims to limit warming to as close to 1.5 degrees as possible in the long term. We won't have exceeded that in the long term, but 1 year is still a very significant milestone, and it reminds us of what we're doing to the world's climate. So we need to reduce emissions even more rapidly than we are, both in this country and around the world. So that involves phasing out fossil fuels. Fossil fuel burning is one of the main causes of buildup of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Also deforestation, there's other causes as well. We need to really urgently reduce emissions, so we need to find other sources of energy, for example.
Sky News hosted a climate debate this week with Just Stop Oil co-founder Zoe Cohen, who says it's time the climate deniers accepted the reality of what is happening to the planet.
If I drop this glass, which I'm not going to do because I'm non-violent and I don't like breaking things, if I drop this, it will break. That's gravity, isn't it? Like, denying that putting more carbon in the atmosphere causes global heating is absolutely insane. We know that. We've known it for 150 years. It's unequivocal. We know that the people in power know full well that what they are doing will drive mass death, and yet they are still doing it. And that, under the Rome Statute, international criminal law, is genocide by oblique intent. We know that. It's been known for years.
In the UK, beavers have been reintroduced to the environment as part of a programme of rewilding and to play a role in creating natural flood defences. They were hunted to extinction in the UK but are now back and potentially playing an important role in the UK's ecosystem. However, in Alaska, beavers are doing the opposite, causing environmental chaos as global warming sees them move south of the Arctic. Beaver engineering is literally changing the landscape of the Arctic as they build dams and create pools which reshape the flow of water through the area, so much so that their handiwork can be seen on satellite. The biggest issue is that the creation of these ponds actually ends up releasing more methane into the atmosphere as vegetation decays. Research professor at the University of Alaska Fairbanks Geophysical Institute, Ken Tape, says their impact is significant.
Sort of light bulb moment for me was when I realized that we could actually detect beavers moving into and out of the Arctic by watching the formation and disappearance of beaver ponds in satellite imagery through time. And that was just exciting because all of a sudden we had a way to track this wildlife movement. The most surprising thing we've learned is the scale of the change. If you look down the road 20 years or 50 years, what the Arctic looks like in a given place is going to depend in a lot of ways on whether or not beavers have got there. So there are all these other changes taking place, but a stream as wide as my office that just kind of winds its way through the tundra is a much different place than sort of a sprawling wetland that has all these beaver dams.
There was good news for cat lovers in Singapore this week. For more than 3 decades, the Singapore government has banned cats as pets in apartments that are part of public housing. If you're caught with a cat, you could be fined around $3,000 and have your cat evicted from the flat. Shamir Osman is a cat fan and apartment dweller, so he's pretty relieved his feline friend is no longer breaking the law.
We were being responsible owners in the sense that we made sure that the girls didn't go outside, whether to urinate or defecate on our neighbours' homes or their plants or one of those, or whatever that.
The rule was implemented because authorities say cats are difficult to control and also noisy, which could cause offence to neighbours. A new public consultation is now underway, and Singaporean MP and animal rights activist Lewis Nig is delighted to see the change.
I think the overriding most important thing is that it shows the government is listening, that many and thousands have spoken up. The government has looked into this policy and is finally reviewing and making some changes. And it shows that if we all speak up, things can happen.
This has been the Sunday 7. Wherever you're listening, do us a favour and hit the follow button. We'll be back tomorrow at 7 a.m. with the regular Smart 7. Have a great rest of your weekend. Written, produced and published by Daft Doris.
Tired of ads interrupting your gripping investigations? Good news. Ad-free listening on Amazon Music is included with your Prime membership. Ads shouldn't be the scariest thing about true crime. Just head to amazon.com/ad-free true crime to catch up on the latest episodes without the ads. Enjoy thousands of Acast shows ad-free for Prime subscribers. Some shows may have ads.